Subscribe.
So what is the mechanism of consciousness? How does consciousness actually work? Again, we're not here to define what consciousness is, because you can't define infinity. We can show how infinity actually works, as I've already stated. The mechanism of consciousness, to understand that, I'm going to give an analogy, an example of how a computer works. And suddenly, a light bulb may come on of understanding, well, wait a second, I'm literally the reason why I can see everything around me in the way that I see it. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Go to any website, not on your phone because you're not going to be able to do what I'm asking you to do. When you guys get home on your computer, go to any website. Right-click on that website. For practical purposes, we'll go to Facebook.com or YouTube.com, whatever it is. You're on YouTube, what do you see? You see videos, you see thumbnails, you see comments, you see likes, you see all these things going on, text on the screen, back buttons. And we truly believe that YouTube is a consolidation of videos and pictures and thumbnails and comments and like buttons and so on and so forth. But what if I told you that it is not that at all? And the way that we know that it's not that is if you right-click on your browser when you're on YouTube.com, you're going to see a little window pop up. And on that window, you're going to see something called View Page Source. And View Page Source will bring you to another window. And that window will bring you to something called source code. Source code is the language that the programmer used and coded to create what we experience as that website, in this case, YouTube.com. And that source code doesn't have pictures, doesn't have videos, doesn't have comments, doesn't have like buttons, doesn't have anything on it but symbols, letters, numbers, and a bunch of other things that if we looked at, we just wouldn't understand unless you are that programmer. Now there are different codes, there are different languages. You have your Cobra and your HTML and JavaScript and C++ and C++ and all that fun stuff. That's not the point. The point is that source code is what is actually behind this coherent experience that we call YouTube.com, and I'll explain how this applies and really segues into how the mechanism of consciousness truly works. I'm just trying to paint this picture so you guys can understand it really, really clearly. You right-click, you see View Page Source, you see this source code, and it's completely different than the website you've been on this entire time. So what is the job of the computer? The job of the computer, that's a computer, whatever, okay? The job of the computer is to take that source code, to decode it through its components, your CPU, your RAM, your hard drive, your Intel chip, whatever chip you have in that computer. And then suddenly, after it decodes it, which should actually go over here into the components of the computer, it then projects the decoded version of that source code into YouTube.com on your screen. In other words, the purpose of the computer is to use its components to decode source code into coherent light that's projected on your screen, and so you can watch videos, comment, interact, like, and do all those things. Why is that important? Why is that relevant? The reason why that's relevant is because that's exactly how we work. We have something called energy in this world. Light, which is the common denominator of absolutely everything. Physical, non-physical, tangible, intangible, material, spiritual, whatever it may be, can all be broken down to energy. Whether you can measure it or not, that's what it is. So what we're doing is taking the source code of the universe, almost like, imagine that's a good-looking human, and you're taking this source code and it's coming into your brain, and through your brain it decodes it and goes to your eyes and your nose and your mouth, and then you have your senses, and you can smell and you can taste and you can feel and you can hear and you can do all these things. So you have components. Your components are your brain, your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, your nerve endings, all these things are your components. The job of that is to take the light, the source code of infinite potential, and based on the quality of your components, they will decode that source code and then project it as vision, project it as taste, project it as smell, project it as sound. But then we have something really interesting. Let's go back to the computer for a second. You can have computer A and computer B. And this computer does everything the way that we understand computers to work. But this computer projects all videos in 3D holograms. What's the difference? It's not in your source code. It's in your components of the computer. You change the components, you change the decoding process, you change the reality of what you see on that screen on the computer. Therefore, you change the components, you upgrade your consciousness, you upgrade how that source code decodes through you, you change the projection of reality. It's the same exact thing. So if you're operating in an operating system, just like there's Apple and Android, let's say your operating system is depression. Well, that's how you're going to see the world. Your operating system is joy. That's how you're going to decode things. Your operating system is unity, hate. All of those things based on your operating system is how you will decode something over something else. And your belief is extremely important because your belief is what changes in the base that operating system in its essence. Why are there some people that can look at people and say, I see breast cancer in that person? And other people can see auras, and other people just see a human standing in front of them. We all have eyes, we all have ears, we all have noses, but there's some other sense that's beyond that physicality that allows one person to have what we call intuition, which is really just spirituality. Intuition in such a way that you could see things that another person can't. Same eyes, but they see differently. Same ears, but they hear differently. Same noses, but they smell differently. Same brain and awareness, but they have a different level of intuition. What is the difference? The difference is how you decode that infinite potential into your experience of projected reality. Why is that important? Because now you have individual consciousness and you have universal consciousness. You have the individual experience and you have the collective experience. Let's start with the individual. On the individual level, you can change your life as much as you want for the better and the worse. But then there are some people from the individual level that are doing great things that say, well, I'm not in hate and division and war and greed. So why do I have to live in a world that is? Well, because individuals make up the collective. And so long as the individuals collectively are not resonating on where that one individual is resonating, then it's not enough for just you to experience that. It's definitely an important point. But our goal then, through understanding the mechanism of consciousness and the difference between individual and universal awareness, the individual and the collective, is to understand that we're not in this for ourselves because there is no such thing as yourself. Reality can't exist without the awareness to begin with. You are reality. You're the reason why reality exists in the first place. If there is no perceiver, if there is no awareness, there is no existence. But that doesn't even work out because energy cannot be created or destroyed. There's a reason for that. Awareness never began, and existence never began. Awareness will never end, and existence will never end. But because we get stuck to the illusion of form, we say the beginning of the world and the end of the world. But that's not how it works. It works like this. The world, physically, has a spiritual root, and that spiritual root is your source code, is your light. That light, by scientific law, the law of conservation, it cannot be created and cannot be destroyed. Therefore, it never started and it will never end. It can only transform. And in this case, that light transforms through you. What life are you trying to live? What world do you want to live in? Beyond taking care of your individual bubble, are you taking care of the collective bubble by bringing thought to word to action? And if you are, then you will shift the collective a whole lot quicker by doing your part. And I'll end with one very, very simple visualization, or example, analogy. If you're on a basketball team and you want to reach the NCAAs, you want to reach the championships, it's not enough for you to be a good three-point shooter. Because if your team sucks, you're going to be held back. So if you're a really good three-point shooter and you want to reach those finals, then start training your team. Get your team to be better. Get everybody to do their part. Get everybody to be perfect in their position and their role, because we all have roles. Neither is better or worse. Neither is bigger or smaller. They may seem bigger or smaller. But if you have a puzzle of 1,000 pieces that you're trying to bring together, there may be bigger pieces and there may be smaller pieces. But if ultimately you need a full puzzle, then I don't care if one piece is 1 mile long and another piece is 1 millimeter. Without that 1 millimeter, you do not have a complete puzzle. And in that way, everybody's equal. Equal in the fact that we all have a role. Bigger roles, smaller roles, in the level that we experience them, sure. But that doesn't matter. Some of us are here to impact one person. Some of us are here just to work on ourselves. Some of us are here to impact our family, our town, our city, our state, our country, the planet, or the universe as a whole. Every single piece is a puzzle piece to get to that final completion, and without every single person doing their part, we will not get to that point. So the mechanism of consciousness shows the root of all of this. We are accessing the infinite light. We are accessing infinite potential. And if we do it just a little bit more consciously, if we shift our operating systems from depression to joy, from chaos to stillness, just a step. You don't even need to get to the whole way through. Just a step, you will see a change in your life, and therefore in the world as a whole. Shift from what you don't want into what you do want by focusing on what you already have within you. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. This is not something that you have to create. This is something that you access. It's already there. The question is, how are you choosing? And now you guys have no choice but to choose, because you're now aware of this. You're kind of screwed. You have no choice. Okay, so how are you going to choose moving forward to decode your reality? And are you going to catch yourself when you decode it in a counterproductive way and say, wait a second, I choose to change that. I choose to do it in a more productive way. And if you do, you'll see your world change and the world change. And if you don't, you're going to be stagnant, and that's not what we want. We came here to evolve. We came here to ascend. We came here to keep moving forward. That's what the mechanism of consciousness brings to each and every one of us when we become aware of it.
Subscribe.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. There's so much more I'd like to dive into, but unfortunately, we can't do that here thanks to the heavy censorship efforts from big tech. If you want to explore this topic further, you can dive deep by accessing our entire uncensored library on unified.tv. There's a link in the description below this video if you want to check it out. A membership to Unified TV gives you unlimited access to hundreds of uncensored podcasts, investigative journalism, documentaries, films, and content that was once available on major streaming platforms like Netflix, but is now banned from the internet. For just $14.99 a month, which is less than $1 a day, you get access to it all. Your subscription also helps keep the platform running free from censorship and corporate influence. Please consider supporting us and enjoy all of our unfiltered and thought-provoking content in return. Thank you very much, and I will see you on Unified TV.